back to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. Thank you guys for subscribing to my channel. Thank you for your love, for your support. If you are new to the channel, you're welcome. If you have not subscribed, please, I would appreciate for you to hit on the subscribe button. Okay, guys. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew a straight skirt with back slit and a full lining. Yes, that's what we're going to learn how to do today. So this is a beautiful and a simple tutorial to do. So the emphasis is the lining part. So some people, they can sew skirts but they don't know how to manipulate the lining. So that's what we're going to do today. So if you find this video helpful, please hit on the like button. I would appreciate for you to do that, and then hit also the subscribe and the bell also if you have not done so. You can become a member of Stylish Nigeria YouTube channel by just hitting on the join button and then see the details of what we have. Okay, so this is the fabric that I'm going to be using today. It's an Ankara fabric, African print. So that's what we're going to use. And then this is the lining. So I'm using a strong lining. I want it structured. I just want my skirt straight and neat. Okay, so the measurements I'm going to be using, the waist measurement is 40, and then my hip is 43, and then the full length is 41. So these are the measurements that I'm going to be making use of, just three basic measurements. Okay, guys, so let's just get started. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to cut. I'm going to use the lining to cut it before I transfer it on my fabric, okay, to make it easier for me. So let's get started straight now. So I folded my fabric. So I'm going to add some lines to it. So this is like a beginner's friendly tutorial. So I'm going to put a straight line here. So that will be my start-up line. So I folded the back and the front together. And since I'm using my free hand, I folded my fabric at 15 inches because my hip is 10.5. So that's appropriate. So I added about 4.5 inches to it. So the next measurement I'm going to add now is my hip line, which is usually 9 or 10 inches. So that's my hip line. So I've added it from the waist. So this is the waist measurement, and then this is the hip measurement. So the next line I'm going to mark is my knee measurement, which I'm not really going to need it, but I just always like adding it. So for my knee measurement, I'm using 19 inches. So that's my knee measurement. And then the full length of my skirt is 41 inches. So that is okay. And then I have about 2 inches extra that I'm going to use for my allowance of my, that's the stitching to turn the skirt. Okay, so the first thing now, we're going to add our waist measurement. Simple, right? So we'll come to this point and then I'll measure 10 inches. You know, I told you 40 divided by 4 is 10. I'll add it here. And then I'm just going to add 2 inches allowance because I'll sew and turn. I'm not doing an inseam finishing. I'll add it here. I'll take out from that inch, I'll take out 1 inch for my darts, okay? So from this point, I'll come to my hip line, which I'm using 10.5 like I explained earlier. I'll mark my 10.5 and then I'm going to add my allowance here also. So from this point, I'll use my pattern curve. It's a very simple process. I'll just connect those 2 points together. And then for my hip line, sorry, for my knee line, I'll measure what I have here. So I don't want the knee to be too, I don't want it to be too wide. That is to be too slim because the person that wants this does not want that. So you just take out 1 inch from what I have on my hip line. You understand? So I'll connect it now with my ruler like this. So, and then the next thing now, for the down part, I don't want the down part to be too slim. So the skirt is going to have like a little bit of shape at the center. So I'll come to the down part and then I'm going to measure what I have here. So I have about 14 inches. So I'm going to use about 13 inches for the down part. So I'll check what I have here. So it's almost 13. So I'll just repeat it and bring it here. Just put it a little bit more. And then I'll connect this with my straight ruler. So it is a straight skirt, but the down part I'm going to open it a little bit, not like entirely pencil straight, okay? If I wanted pencil straight, this is how I'll place my ruler, like this, and then I'll do this. But if you see mine, it's opened a little bit. So that's the kind of skirt that I want. It's a simple process. So the next thing I'm going to add my dart, just create that here. So I'll use my bust pan, half of my bust pan measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll do that. I'll add it when I'm doing it on the fabric. So I'll just cut this out right now. So you see what we have. So the next thing, remember that notch. So I'm trying to make sure that everything they are in the same place. These things are very necessary if you are doing a full line skirt. Okay, you have to be very, very meticulous. So this we are going to cut this off when we're doing on the fabric. But first of all, let's transfer this to the fabric first. So I'll cut out the back and the front, and then we'll come back and work on the slit for the back. Okay guys, so this is my back piece. So I've finished cutting. I've cut out both the front, okay? So this is the back piece where we're going to be working on. So this is our hip line, and then this is our knee line, okay? And then this is the full length. So the next thing we're going to put into consideration for our back slit, how long do you want your slit to be? You understand? You remember this is our line where our, so it depends on how long you want the slit to be. So you measure it. So from this point, I'm going to use about 13 inches for the back, for my back slit, between 12 and 13. I don't want it to really be too deep, okay? So this is 13 inches here. So I'll mark that point. So this is my zip allowance line. And then the next thing I'm going to do, so for this lining, I'm actually going to cut my lining. But before I do that, let's work on the back piece. So for the back, I'm going to open up my fabric. So I'll open up the fabric. So I'll mark this point now, my zip allowance point like this for the back. So this part I'm going to cut off. So I don't want to cut it off on my lining. So I always like using the lining to sew it. It makes it easier. So this is the point now. So I'm going to cut that off like this. Okay. So you can see. So literally what I'm saying now is from this point like this, I'll cut it off. So it is easier when you want to turn for me to have my lining laid all over it, and then it will be easier for me to sew. I'll show you. So I've cut that off now. So the next thing we're going to do now, we'll go back to the machine. I'll show you how to stitch this, okay? So the next thing, before that, the front piece, I'm going to bring the front piece together. So my lining, I'm going to reduce my lining, the length of my lining. Before I reduce my lining, I'm going to put a notch on my front piece for me to know where the length, so where I will bend the lining from, okay? So I'm going to do that. Before I do that, I'll place both the back and the front together like this. Make sure that I'm placing them, they are the same, and then that extra inches, you know, the length of my skirt is actually 41 inches, okay? So I'll mark it like this. This is my 41 inches. So I'm going to put a notch there on that point for me to know. So this notch will help me to get a very flat stitch. So the lining also, I'll reduce the length of my lining. So I'll do the back and the front, I'll place them together also, and then I'll reduce their length. So if you use this, if you stitch it the same, it will not work. So that extra now, I'm going to cut it off from my lining. Okay, so let's go back to the machine. Let me go and show you how to turn this. Okay guys, so welcome back. So the next thing now we're going to do, now we're going to start stitching. So this is the back piece. So you can see I've placed it on the lining. So this is the right side and then the right side. So I placed them together like this. The first thing I'm going to do now, so you can see the allowance part. You know, I said I was not going to cut it out. So I'm going to run a stitch here now. And then after running a stitch, remember our notch, then we'll fold it. So I'll do that right now, and then we will continue. Okay, so after running a stitch, So see what I'm going to do. So I'll take that notch point. Remember that our point that we notch. I'm going to flip it like this. That's like I'm pushing it in. So when I push it, I'm going to have one kind of allowance here. So you can see now. So you see, this is going to stay like this. And then the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to stitch. So I've done that. So here is going to lay flat. So with this, my lining is not going to come out from under of my fabric. So I'll now stitch here now. The zipper, the allowance part, I'm going to stitch it here, and then I'll stitch it to this point, and then stitch it all the way to the top. And then this other side, I'm going to stitch round like this. So I'll do that now and then show you how it looks like. Okay, so after stitching, so I'm going to trim. Now cut the allowance part, the slit, that's the allowance. I'll now cut it out and then trim off every other excess that I have, and then I'll flip it open and iron. So for the front piece, I did the same thing to the front piece, so you can see just the same way, turn it, and then so now I'm going to iron them straight and then show you how to join them together. Okay guys, so you can see, so I finished ironing. So I'll keep this now. I'll take this to the side. I'll just keep, that's the front piece. And then this is the back piece. So you can see how it looks. So the next thing is a very simple process. So you see, I'll place them together like this. You can see the allowance part. That's the slit part. So I'll place both of them together like this. And then here's what we have. So the next thing now is for us to work on this, okay? So I'll put it, place it like this. So the next thing now is for us to add our lines on this skirt. So we want to close, so before we add our lines, we'll close the zip allowance. So here, so you can remember this is the zip allowance. So we take this, I'll take this back to my machine now, and then I'll run a a stitch here. And then when I get to this point, I'm going to give it a very top strong stitch so it secures it, and then I'll iron it and then bring it back and show you how to join the skirt together. It's a simple process. Okay guys, so you can see our skirt. So you can see how it looks like. It looks good after sewing everything. It came out fine and smooth. Does not have any bulging or swelling. Okay, so the next thing now, I added, so this is my waistline, my hip line, and my knee line. So we're going to add our full measurement now. So the first measurement we're going to add now is the waist measurement, which is 14. So you divide that 14 into 2, we're going to have 20. So I'll mark it here. And then I'll come to the hip line, which is 43. Divide by 2, we have 21 inches. So I'll mark my 21 and a half, sorry. I'll mark my 21 and a half here, like this. And then for my knee measurement, I'll use 21. Okay, so like I said, the owner does not want it to be too tight. And then I'll just take this, I'll connect them together. So the next thing, I'll take this to my machine and then I'll go and stitch. I'll just put the front one on it like this, and then I'll pin them together, and then I'll stitch them along these lines that I made like this. I'll stitch it down, and then I'll just pipe the waist of my skirt. So I'll finish it. Okay guys, so at the end of the day, you can see how our skirt looks like. It came out really fine. So you can see with the full lining, straight skirt with back slit. So guys, so thank you so much. If you find this video helpful, please hit on the like button. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, subscribe. Thank you so much guys. I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.